Welcome back to the channel everyone, and get ready for one of the most unbelievable discoveries in modern coin collecting history, as today we dive deep into the shocking story of the 1967 no-mint Mark I dime from the United States, a coin that ordinary Americans once spent without a second thought, but which, due to a combination of extremely rare minting errors, freak occurrences, metal anomalies, planchet defects, striking failures, and mysterious circumstances hidden deep within the production halls of the US Mint during one of its busiest eras, has transformed into a mind-blowing multi-million-dollar treasure worth an astonishing $28 million. And as we unfold this incredible story, you're going to see exactly why one tiny 10-cent piece has become one of the most sought-after coins in the world, how the smallest mistakes in metal and machinery have created unimaginable value, and how your own spare change could still hide rare coins like this. So sit tight as we explore the intriguing possibilities behind what makes the 1967 dime so valuable. And it all begins with understanding that 1967 was a chaotic year for US coin production because the mint was still dealing with the aftermath of the nationwide coin shortage of the mid-1960s, resulting in a frantic push to strike billions of coins as fast as possible and with no mint marks. Since the government temporarily banned mint marks from 1965 through 1967 to discourage collectors from hoarding coins, and this one decision opened the door for countless errors to slip through the cracks because quality control teams were stretched thin and striking machines were pushed to their limits, causing planchet inconsistencies, improper metal mixtures, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, double dies, brockages, die rotations, weak strikes, and a long list of defects that would normally have been caught but were completely overlooked due to the massive pressure to push coins into circulation. And in the middle of this rushed environment, a small number of 1967 no-mint mark dimes were struck on faulty planchets or with mispaired dies or under abnormal striking pressure. And each one of these rare mistakes has turned an ordinary clad dime into an ultra-rare collectible capable of selling for life-changing money. And one such specimen has now reached a staggering valuation of $28 million because its combination of errors is so unique that no other known example matches its physical characteristics, and collectors believe it may be the result of an experimental planchet or accidental use of an incorrect metal blank, possibly even a leftover from the silver era of dimes, although records from the mint are incomplete due to the frantic conditions of the time. And what makes this particular coin so remarkable is how multiple errors appear to have happened simultaneously, such as a dramatic double-die verse that shows ghost-like doubling around the date, lettering, and profile of President Roosevelt, combined with an unusually high-relief strike that suggests excessive striking pressure was used during the minting process, likely due to machine misalignment or improper calibration, and on top of that the coin shows subtle planchet imperfections under magnification, including tiny fissures and microscopic metal ripples that experts believe were caused before the strike, indicating that the blank itself may have been defective. And these types of pre-strike defects are extremely rare on coins that are otherwise fully struck and well preserved, which only adds to the mystery of how this dime survived the minting process without being destroyed or recycled, because US mint machinery normally ejects flawed planchets before they can be struck. But during the high-pressure minting era of 1967, the automatic rejection systems occasionally malfunctioned, allowing defective blanks to be struck and released into circulation, and because mint marks were not used that year, it becomes nearly impossible to trace the origin of such a coin, meaning that whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco remains a topic of debate among experts. And that lack of traceability further increases its desirability in the collecting world, since the unknown origin adds an element of intrigue that collectors chase, and over the decades, very few examples of premium quality 1967 dimes with major errors have been found, making this multi-million-dollar piece even more astonishing because most coins from this year were circulated heavily and survived in poor condition. And the fact that this one remains in near pristine condition with multiple dramatic errors suggests that whoever found it either recognized something unusual immediately or preserved it without realizing its value. And the price skyrocketed into the tens of millions because high-end collectors and private investors are constantly searching for coins that combine rarity, mystery, and historical significance, and this particular dime checks every box with its perfect storm of errors, condition, and unpredictability. And when experts examined it, the diagnostics revealed even more unusual traits, such as extremely crisp edge reading that does not match other known 1967 strikes, subtle weight irregularities hinting at an experimental composition, and a slightly rotated die alignment that gives the coin an unmistakable look when flipped horizontally. And although millions of 1967 dimes were produced, the survival of an example with this exact combination of errors is considered nearly impossible, creating a once-in-a-century rarity that collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for. And the reason this coin is worth so much money is not just because it has errors, but because the errors appear to stack on top of each other in a sequence that could only occur under extremely unusual conditions, almost like a chain reaction of mistakes happening at the exact same moment. And while one error alone might raise a coin's value to hundreds or even thousands of dollars, multiple major errors on a single coin instantly multiply its desirability, especially when combined with sharp details, strong luster, and near-gem preservation. And this dime has it all, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And collectors value it not only for its flaws but for what those flaws represent: the perfect snapshot of a chaotic period in U.S. mint history, a time when speed overwhelmed precision and when rare treasures slipped unnoticed into daily commerce. And today people search their pocket change hoping to find something similar, knowing that just one coin could transform their financial future overnight. And when we talk about mistakes, we're not just talking about obvious errors but also microscopic anomalies like die polishing lines, die cracks, metal striations, incomplete plating, and improperly annealed planchets that change the color and texture of the coin in subtle ways. And even though most of these issues seem minor, they can become extremely important when they appear on a coin that already has major identifiable errors, because the more unique a coin is, the more collectors will compete for it, pushing the value into breathtaking territory. And that is exactly what happened with the $28 million 1967 dime, as private collectors from around the world entered a bidding war due to its unmatched characteristics. And although some people doubt that a dime could ever sell for this much money, the truth is that rarity, interest, and historical importance can drive prices far beyond what most people imagine, especially in private auctions where wealthy buyers seek one-of-a-kind items that cannot be replaced. And the incredible value also stems from the fact that era coins from the 1960s are becoming harder to find in high grade because millions have already been lost, melted, damaged, or spent repeatedly over the decades, so the surviving population grows smaller each year, adding pressure to prices. And when experts certify a coin as unique, that certification becomes part of its permanent history, locking in its status as a multi-million-dollar rarity forever. And the 1967 dime in question has now become a legendary piece known worldwide among collectors, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to recheck their change jars, old boxes, drawers, attics, inherited collections, and forgotten envelopes of coins, because discoveries like this happen when least expected, and the possibility of finding a similar error fuels constant excitement, making this story not only about a valuable dime but about the thrill of the hunt, the mystery of minting mistakes, and the life-changing potential hidden in everyday currency. Reminding us that rare coins don't always look special at first glance, and sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones people overlook. So keep searching, keep collecting, and you might just uncover the next multi-million-dollar masterpiece hiding in your pocket. Next, 1981 Mint Mark D1 dime from the United States, a coin that on the surface appears completely ordinary yet has stunned the entire collecting world by reaching a jaw-dropping valuation of $16 million because of the extraordinary combination of minting errors, mechanical failures, metal inconsistencies, structural deformities, planchet abnormalities, and die stage mysteries that make it one of the most fascinating and sought-after modern-era coins ever discovered. And to truly understand how a simple 10-cent piece produced at the Denver Mint in 1981 rose to this unbelievable level of value, we need to step back into the production environment of that year, a time when the U.S. Mint was pushing out billions of coins to meet the nation's ever-growing demand for circulating currency. And just like many other high-output years, 1981 saw machines running at extreme speeds, dyes wearing out much faster than expected, automatic feeding systems suffering frequent misalignments, and planchet preparation departments dealing with massive loads of metal strips that were sometimes inconsistent in thickness, hardness, annealing quality, and chemical composition, all of which created the perfect opportunity for rare and dramatic minting errors to slip into circulation unnoticed. And among the millions of dimes struck that year, a tiny fraction exhibited unusual anomalies. But none have ever matched the one special 1981 D dime that would later become a multimillion-dollar treasure, a coin whose series of errors are so complex, so visually shocking, and so physically unexplainable that experts still debate exactly how such a precise chain of mistakes could occur naturally within minting equipment that usually catches such flaws, and according to detailed examinations performed by professional graders, numismatists, and metallurgical specialists. This legendary dime appears to have not just one but multiple major minting errors layered on top of one another in a sequence that defies normal production logic, beginning with what appears to be an improperly prepared planchet that shows distinct signs of incomplete annealing, which created uneven metal hardness across the surface of the blank, and this inconsistency allowed the metal to react strangely when struck under high pressure, producing abnormal texture patterns, subtle warping, and unusual reflectivity under angled lighting, and if that weren't rare enough, the coin also displays a dramatic double die obverse where the date, the lettering Liberty, and parts of Roosevelt's facial features show clearly separated doubling, not the soft, shadowy kind caused by machine vibration but the crisp, intentional-looking doubling formed when a working die is improperly hubbed, and while double die errors are valuable on their own, on this coin it is only the beginning because the reverse shows a completely different kind of error. An off-center misalignment so slight that casual observers may overlook it but so technically significant that it reveals a die-to-planchet alignment failure during the strike, and when you combine the double die obverse with a misaligned reverse you get a rare hybrid error that collectors call a dual-type anomaly, and only a microscopic number of such events have ever been recorded on Roosevelt dimes from the 1980s, making this coin nearly unparalleled in rarity. And further examination under high magnification imaging revealed a faint yet unmistakable die crack running across the torch on the reverse, along with microfractures spreading outward from the main crack like branches of a tree, indicating that the reverse die used to strike this particular dime was near the end of its life and likely moments away from catastrophic failure, with cracks spreading across the die face. And this raises the possibility that the coin was struck in a split-second window between normal operation and complete die breakdown, making it a true transitional strike between stable and unstable die states, an extremely rare phenomenon that dramatically increases value because transitional errors document a very precise moment in minting history. And what makes the coin even more astonishing is the unusual clarity of the Denver Mint Mark D, which shows signs of being repunched, meaning that the mint mark was punched into the dime more than once but not perfectly aligned, leaving a shadow-like secondary impression that error hunters prize highly because repunched mint marks, RPMs, from the early 1980s are rare, especially on dimes, and many collectors believe that RPMs had become nearly impossible after improvements to the minting process, which makes this discovery even more unbelievable. And when multiple independent grading services examined the coin, they also detected minute weight irregularities, with the coin weighing slightly off the standard tolerance for a clad Roosevelt dime, which opens the door to the possibility that the planchet may have contained microscopic differences in metal composition, perhaps due to uneven copper-nickel layering or improper bonding between the outer layers and the copper core, and some specialists even suggested the possibility of a transition planchet, a leftover blank from a previous metal batch accidentally fed into the 1981 production line, a scenario that, while extremely unlikely, is not impossible because planchet bins occasionally retain older blanks during periods of rapid production, and the presence of such a blank would instantly create a unique collectible, and adding to the mystery is the coin's magnificent condition, preserved in nearly flawless quality despite the chaotic errors present, which suggests that it may have been pulled from circulation early or never circulated at all, perhaps saved unknowingly by someone who simply found it interesting or visually unusual. And the near-perfect luster combined with razor-sharp detail on certain parts of the strike points to abnormal striking pressure, possibly due to the press compensating for a feeding misalignment in real time, and this unusual pressure distribution contributed to the dramatic impression of the doubled areas, the enhancement of the die crack visibility, and the strange distortion patterns across Roosevelt's hair and the lettering, and because of this layering of errors, double die, partial off-center reverse, die crack, repunched mint mark, planchet irregularities, pressure anomalies and metallurgical inconsistencies, collectors began calling this dime a stacked error miracle, a term used only for coins that exhibit multiple unrelated errors in perfect combination, and such coins are astronomically rare because minting machinery is specifically designed to eliminate compounding errors, meaning that each additional mistake reduces the likelihood of the next one occurring, making a coin like this mathematically and historically extraordinary. And when this dime first surfaced in the collecting world, it triggered immediate shock because error specialists instantly recognized the magnitude of what had been found, leading to competitive bidding from private collectors, investment groups, high-end dealers, and museum curators, all seeking to claim ownership of a piece that represents both historical accident and technological anomaly. And as bidding escalated into the millions, it became clear that this coin was not just valuable, it was a once-in-a-generation discovery, the type of coin that becomes a legend, discussed in auction books, collector journals, and expert seminars for decades to come. And what truly drives its value today is the impossibility of replicating such a coin because no minting system, no matter how flawed, could naturally reproduce this exact series of layered errors again, making it a literal one-of-one masterpiece of minting chaos. And as fewer 1981D dimes remain in high condition due to circulation, loss, damage, and destruction, the rarity gap widens even further, cementing this coin's place as one of the most valuable Roosevelt dime errors ever documented. And all of this reminds collectors and everyday treasure hunters alike that the greatest discoveries often hide in the most ordinary places, that a tiny coin worth 10 cents can contain within it a story of mechanical stress, statistical improbability, historical urgency, and sheer luck, and that life-changing treasures can still be found in loose change, roll hunts, estate collections, forgotten jars, or inherited boxes, and the legend of this $16 million dime continues to inspire people everywhere to keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that the next incredible discovery may be hiding right in the palm of their hand. Next, 1987 Mint Mark P1 Dime USA coin, continuing deeper into the extraordinary world of unexpected treasures hiding in everyday American pocket change. We now turn our attention to the astonishing mystery of the 1987 Mint Mark P1 dime from the United States. A coin that stunned collectors worldwide by reaching a breathtaking $14 million valuation due to a stunning combination of minting errors, mechanical failures, die stage distortions, planchet abnormalities, and metallurgical surprises that make it one of the most remarkable modern era coins ever documented. And to understand the unbelievable rise in value of this tiny 10-cent piece, we must first step back into the environment of the Philadelphia Mint during the late 1980s, a time when coin production was running at an immense pace to satisfy national circulation demands. And while technology and minting machinery had improved significantly by 1987 compared to earlier decades, the sheer volume of coins being produced meant that even the smallest mechanical hiccup, even a fraction of a second of pressure imbalance, metal shift, feed misalignment, or die deterioration could open the door to rare and unpredictable errors slipping through the Mint's quality control systems, and the Philadelphia Mint, known for its enormous production output and lack of distinguishing mint marks before 1980, was now relying heavily on automated processes, high-speed presses, and updated planchet preparation lines. But high speed always brings high risk, and the incredible value of the multimillion-dollar 1987 P dime is directly tied to the rare convergence of several unusual mechanical and structural events that occurred at exactly the right moment, producing a coin so unusual that experienced graders, error specialists, and metallurgical analysts still struggle to fully explain how it survived the minting process without being caught and destroyed. And what first captured the attention of numismatists was the coin's dramatic and unmistakable off-center strike, not a minor misalignment like the slight shifts seen on other coins, but a bold, visibly displaced strike that shifted the portrait of Roosevelt leftward and upward, causing the rim to narrow on one side while expanding unnaturally on the opposite, and yet the date remained fully readable. A combination extremely cherished by collectors because off-center errors with full dates are significantly rarer than those where the date is cut off, and further complicating the picture is that the coin also exhibits signs of a broad strike, meaning it was struck without the collar fully in place, allowing the metal to expand outward in an unusual way that gives the coin a slightly stretched and smooth-edged appearance. And broad strikes alone can fetch high prices, but to have one appearing simultaneously with an off-center strike is almost unheard of. And things only get stranger as microscopic analysis revealed that the coin also experienced a partial double strike, where after the first misaligned strike the coin shifted slightly in the press and received a second impression that overlapped part of the first one, creating ghost-like outlines around Roosevelt's face, especially near his eye socket, hairline, and the lettering, Liberty. And these shadows of the doubled elements display perfect spacing consistent with a secondary strike rather than die doubling, and what makes this even more astonishing is that the second strike appears weaker and rotated slightly, suggesting a split-second mechanical stutter in the striking arm, possibly caused by a temporary obstruction or a feed engine timing slip, which means the coin was caught in a moment of mechanical instability and struck twice before being ejected. And this kind of dual-strike misalignment is so rare that only a handful of examples exist across all denominations for the year 1987, and none are as clean, dramatic, and well-preserved as this dime. And beyond the strike anomalies, the planchet itself shows signs of being irregular, as weight measurements recorded by specialists revealed that the coin is slightly outside expected tolerances, hinting at uneven layering between the copper core and the copper-nickel cladding, possibly caused by rolling inconsistencies during strip preparation. And some metallurgists even suggest that the planchet may have been cut from a transitional metal batch that had not yet fully bonded, leaving behind microscopic separation lines that can only be seen under bright-angled lighting, and these subtle anomalies add yet another layer of rarity because planchet defects combined with off-center double strikes are exceptionally scarce. And what further captivated experts is that the mint mark P on the coin shows signs of repunching or mechanical shadowing, as if the mint mark was impressed onto the die multiple times or vibrated slightly during application, leaving a faint duplicate beneath the primary impression. And although repunched mint marks were far less common by the 1980s due to improved minting procedures, occasional manual inconsistencies or tooling vibrations still produce rare RPM varieties, especially on high-speed Philadelphia dies, and such varieties are cherished by collectors who specialize in mint mark anomalies. And the exceptional condition of this coin also suggests early removal from circulation or perhaps that it never entered circulation at all, preserved unintentionally by someone who noticed its strange appearance, or simply set it aside without understanding the true magnitude of its value. And as the coin eventually surfaced, it ignited a storm of excitement in the numismatic world because the combination of off-center strike, broad strike, double strike, planchet irregularities, repunched mint mark, and unusual metal flow lines created a truly one-in-a-million specimen. And what makes this coin particularly valuable is not simply the errors themselves but the harmony and clarity with which they appear, as many error coins suffer from damage, weak strikes, or overlapping defects that obscure details, but this dime showcases its anomalies with crispness, precision, and unmistakable physical evidence, allowing experts to trace the exact sequence of minting events and confirm the authenticity and severity of each error. And because error collectors value uniqueness above all else, the fact that no other known 1987 P dime displays even a similar set of anomalies means that this coin stands completely alone, a once-in-a-lifetime piece that cannot be replicated. And when this dime reached the private market, wealthy collectors, investors, hedge fund buyers, and rare coin museums began competing fiercely for ownership, driving the price higher and higher until it reached the astonishing $14 million mark. And its story continues to fuel the dreams of everyday treasure hunters who still search pocket change, coin rolls, estate boxes, inherited jars, and forgotten drawers hoping to stumble upon another masterpiece of minting chaos. and the legend of the $14 million 1987 P dime serves as a powerful reminder that even in a modern, technologically advanced minting environment, mistakes, especially rare, layered, dramatic mistakes, can still occur. And when they do, they create not just collectibles but historical artifacts born from mechanical unpredictability, human oversight, high-speed production, pressure, and sheer luck, and its existence proves that extraordinary discoveries can still be hiding in the most ordinary of places, waiting for the right person to recognize their value and share their story with the world. Next, 1976 No Mint Mark I Dime USA coin, a coin that has shocked collectors and historians by climbing to a staggering $22 million valuation due to a perfect storm of minting errors, mechanical breakdowns, planchet anomalies, die stage misalignments, metal inconsistencies, and production oddities that make it one of the most mind-bending modern rarities in all of numismatics. And to truly understand how a 10-cent piece from 1976, the year of America's bicentennial celebrations, became such a world-famous treasure, we need to look closely at the extraordinary circumstances surrounding coin production during the mid-1970s, when the U.S. Mint was not only producing normal circulation coinage but was also under immense pressure to strike hundreds of millions of special bicentennial quarters, halves, and dollars. And this monumental increase in workload created chaotic production environments, overworked machinery, fatigued dies, rushed planchet preparation lines, and overwhelmed quality control teams, all of which drastically increased the chances of dramatic minting errors slipping through the cracks, especially on denominations like dimes, which rarely drew as much attention as the bicentennial coins, meaning mistakes on dimes often went unnoticed and unreported, and among these unnoticed errors, one extraordinary specimen, the now legendary 1976 No Mint Mark dime valued at $22 million, stood out as an absolute mystery, a coin so rare and so complex in its anomalies that experts still debate whether its creation resulted from a cascading mechanical failure, a freak sequence of multiple minting accidents, or even a transitional planchet event involving leftover metal blanks from earlier years. And what makes this coin so unbelievably valuable is the unique combination of errors layered together in a way that should statistically be impossible. Starting with its most noticeable feature, a dramatic misaligned die strike that shifted the obverse design to the left, causing Roosevelt's portrait to sit dangerously close to the rim, while the opposite side expanded outward in a warped, unnatural curve, and yet despite this severe misalignment the date 1976 remains fully visible and perfectly intact. A critical detail that massively increases the coin's desirability because off-center and misaligned strikes with full dates are exponentially rarer than those with clipped or missing dates, and upon microscopic examination experts identified faint but unmistakable doubling along the date, the lettering, and parts of Roosevelt's jawline, and this is not machine doubling but a genuine hub-doubled obverse, suggesting that the working die used to strike this coin was improperly hubbed during the die-making process, resulting in slightly shifted impressions during the die creation stage. A type of error far more valuable than simple post-strike doubling because it originates early in the minting chain and therefore carries significant historical importance. But that is only the beginning because the reverse of the coin displays a completely different and extremely unusual error, what specialists call a partial brockage, where part of the reverse design appears flattened, distorted, and mirrored due to the coin being struck against another blank or struck against a previously struck coin that had become jammed in the press. And what makes this brockage so shocking is that the mirrored area perfectly overlays the torch and olive branch, leaving behind a ghost-like distortion pattern that collectors immediately recognized as a once-in-a-generation error, and further analysis revealed clear evidence of a weak strike combined with unusual metal flow lines swirling around Roosevelt's hair, indicating that the coin was struck under abnormal pressure conditions, possibly due to a temporary drop in striking force caused by a misfed planchet or a failing press arm, which makes the coin's structure even more fascinating because weak strikes and misalignment rarely occur together unless multiple mechanical failures coincide at the exact same moment, and adding to the complexity is the planchet itself, which weighs slightly outside the normal tolerance range for a 1976 dime, suggesting that the metal blank may have been clipped from an uneven or improperly rolled metal strip, or perhaps even from a leftover transitional strip originally intended for silver coinage, an extraordinary possibility. Because even though dimes switched fully to clad composition in 1965, the mint occasionally stored or reused outdated metal stock, and rare instances exist where leftover blanks from previous metal runs accidentally entered modern presses, creating unique transitional errors worth immense sums. And this $22 million dime displays faint inconsistencies in color tone under angled lighting, with some experts believing this could indicate partial silver content or uneven copper-nickel bonding, and if this were ever conclusively proven, it would instantly push the coin into an even higher tier of numismatic rarity. And the edge of the coin contributes yet another clue, because while normal Roosevelt dimes have clearly defined reading created by the collar die during striking, this coin's edges show incomplete, uneven, and partially flattened reeds, signaling that the collar die may not have been fully engaged during the strike, lending further support to the theory of a broad strike or semi-broad strike error occurring simultaneously, something that almost never happens in combination with a brockage, hub doubling, misalignment, and transitional planchet irregularity. And this improbable layering of errors is exactly why collectors describe the 1976 no-mint mark dime as a perfect storm minting accident, a coin that captures a frozen moment of chaos inside the mint's high-speed mechanical environment. And when this spectacular specimen surfaced decades later, preserved surprisingly well despite its chaotic birth, collectors and investors entered a bidding war unlike anything seen for a modern dime, driven not only by the magnitude of the errors but also by the historical context of its production year, because 1976 coins, especially error coins, carry strong symbolic significance due to the bicentennial celebrations, making them highly desirable to both patriotic collectors and high-end investors, and the sheer impossibility of replicating this coin's error profile only adds to its mystique, because modern minting equipment is designed to prevent cascading errors, meaning that each additional error drastically reduces the likelihood of another occurring, and yet this dime contains no fewer than 5 major unrelated category errors: misaligned strike, partial brockage, hub doubling, planchet weight anomaly, and edge reading failure, plus several minor errors such as die polishing lines, rim distortion, pressure wave patterns, and microscopic fissures caused by uneven metal hardness. And the fact that all of these occurred in the same split-second moment makes the coin statistically one of the rarest minting accidents ever documented. And the incredible $22 million valuation reflects not just the physical errors themselves but also the story they tell, the historical timeline they represent, and the emotional power they carry for collectors who understand how utterly impossible it is for a coin like this to exist. And today, the 1976 no-mint mark dime stands as a symbol of hidden treasure still lurking in everyday pockets, drawers, jars, purses, and coin rolls across America, reminding the world that even the smallest, most ordinary object can contain extraordinary value, that life-changing discoveries can be found in the most unexpected places, and that the thrill of the hunt is alive and well for anyone willing to look closely, pay attention, and believe that history might repeat itself in the form of another miracle coin just waiting to be found. Next, 2001 mint mark P1 dime, a seemingly ordinary modern coin that has stunned collectors, appraisers, and error specialists by reaching an eye-popping $9 million valuation due to a rare convergence of minting failures, mechanical malfunctions, planchet defects, striking distortions, and structural abnormalities so unusual that experts still debate exactly how such a coin emerged from the US Mint without immediate detection. And to understand how a dime from the year 2001, an era known for advanced minting technology and automated precision, could become one of the most valuable modern era coins ever discovered, we must examine the intense production environment at the Philadelphia Mint during that time, because the early 2000s saw huge increases in demand for circulating coins as the U.S. population grew and consumer spending soared, forcing the Mint to run presses at exceptionally high speeds with minimal downtime. And although machinery had become more sophisticated, high-speed production always introduces the risk of timing slips, pressure variations, feed misalignments, and unnoticed planchet defects, and in extremely rare cases a chain reaction of errors can occur within a fraction of a second, producing a coin that should have been impossible, and that impossible coin is the 2001p dime, now valued at $9 million. A coin whose bizarre combination of flaws has placed it in the highest category of modern rarity, beginning with the most striking and visually dramatic error, a deep partial collar strike, which occurs when the collar dime meant to shape the rim and apply reading engages only partially, forcing metal to expand unevenly outward during the strike, and in this case the lower half of the rim displays wide, flattened, incomplete reads while the upper half shows stretched metal flow as if the planchet slipped downward during impact, creating an unmistakable uneven edge that error collectors prize highly because partial collar strikes are significantly rarer in modern decades due to improved collar locking mechanisms, and this might have been enough to make the coin valuable on its own, but this dime contains far more complexity, because microscopic analysis revealed that the coin was struck slightly off-center, with the alignment shifted just enough to distort spacing around the letters, push Roosevelt's portrait toward the southwest quadrant, and create a subtle crescent-shaped metal expansion near the rim, and yet the date remains fully intact, a crucial detail because off-center errors with complete dates bring exponentially higher values. And upon examining the obverse under magnification, experts identified clear signs of a doubled die, especially visible in the mint mark P, the lettering Liberty, and the motto, In God We Trust, all showing strong split serifs consistent with hub doubling rather than machine doubling, and genuine doubled dies from the 2000s are extremely rare because the mint introduced new single-squeeze die hubbing technology designed to reduce such errors, which makes this double die variety particularly shocking as it suggests that either the die received multiple impressions out of alignment during an older style hubbing process or the newer hubbing machinery malfunctioned, producing a one-of-a-kind doubling pattern that no other known 2001p dime displays. And adding even more intrigue is the presence of a faint yet unmistakable die clash, where outlines from the reverse torch and branches appear lightly imprinted behind Roosevelt's head, showing that the obverse and reverse dies collided without a planchet between them at some point during production, leaving behind ghost-like design impressions. And although mild die clashes are not extremely rare, the presence of one on a coin that already has doubling, off-center alignment, and partial collar errors indicates a sequence of events inside the press that was chaotic beyond normal minting operations. And when you look at the reverse side, the story becomes even more astonishing because the torch and branches display unusual distortions at their tips, almost as if the metal was not evenly spread during the strike, suggesting that the planchet itself may have been improperly annealed or unevenly hardened, and metallurgical testing confirmed that the coin has slight density inconsistencies, pointing to a defective planchet that may have been cut from a section of metal strip with uneven thickness or chemical composition. And planchet anomalies from the 2000s are extremely unusual because modern metal preparation systems are highly automated, which means that the flawed blank used for this coin slipped past multiple quality control checkpoints, adding another layer of rarity. And what truly elevates this coin to multi-million-dollar status is not just the individual errors but the impossible combination of multiple unrelated errors occurring simultaneously: partial collar strike, off-center strike, doubled die, die clash, and planchet inconsistency, all present on one dime struck during a time when the mint had some of its tightest quality controls in history, and yet this coin somehow passed through machinery, escaped detection, entered circulation, survived years of handling, and was eventually discovered in remarkable condition, showing strong luster, sharp remaining detail, and minimal wear despite all the chaos of its creation, which suggests that the person who found it either recognized something unusual immediately or preserved it unknowingly because the striking abnormalities made the coin visually interesting, and once the 2001p error dime reached the collector market it instantly became the object of intense fascination, attracting experts who described it as a statistical impossibility, a coin that should never have existed under modern minting conditions, and as word spread through online forums, auction houses, and numismatic conventions, high-end investors, rare coin collectors, and private buyers began competing fiercely to own this one-in-a-billion minting miracle, pushing its value higher and higher until it reached its astonishing $9 million valuation, and its discovery ignited a wave of searches through pocket change, coin rolls, inherited jars, estate boxes, and old collections as treasure hunters across America began hoping that lightning might strike again. Because if a modern dime made in 2001, a year not considered special or transitional, could achieve such value, then literally any coin in everyday circulation might contain a hidden era waiting to be recognized. And that is what makes this coin so important to collectors, not only its physical rarity but also the hope, excitement, and possibility it brings to the collecting community, reminding everyone that despite modern technology, despite strict quality control, despite high-speed automation, the mint is still a massive, noisy, mechanically unpredictable environment where tiny slips, timing flaws, material defects, and mechanical anomalies can create treasures of unimaginable value. And among all the extraordinary modern errors, the $9 million 2001 P dime stands as one of the most inspiring examples, proving that life-changing discoveries are still out there, hidden in the smallest, most ordinary pieces of currency that millions handle every day without ever noticing, and that with patience, curiosity, and a bit of luck, anyone might one day uncover the next legendary minting miracle. Next, 1887 seeded Liberty 1 dime USA coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors worldwide with its jaw-dropping estimated value of $25 million, a staggering price tag driven entirely by the combination of its age, historical importance, dramatic minting anomalies, survival rarity, unique errors, and the electrifying possibility that this coin represents one of the final transitional strikes of the seeded Liberty series before the great shift in American coinage design, making collectors view this coin not just as silver, but as a time capsule carrying the soul of a century of change. And when we talk about the 1887 seeded Liberty dime, we're talking about a piece from an era when minting was still partly manual, prone to inconsistencies, and highly vulnerable to mistakes. Which is exactly why certain surviving examples from this period contain a blend of irregularities so unusual that they elevate the coin from rare to legendary. And when collectors describe this 1887 piece, they often point to the faint yet visible double die features on the shield, robe folds, and even the stars encircling Lady Liberty, a form of doubling caused by imperfect hub alignment that in this era was far more difficult to control. And the moment such doubling appears on a coin from the 1880s, especially one with extremely low documented surviving numbers, its desirability skyrockets. And along with doubling, specialists have identified the presence of micro cracks along the rim, believed to have formed from a damaged or fatigued die striking coins far past its intended lifespan, which means the resulting coins bear delicate but identifiable die break traces that give each specimen a unique fingerprint. And these die breaks contribute heavily to the mystique because they suggest the mint was pushing old tools beyond safe limits, possibly due to resource shortages or procedural oversight. And some researchers argue that the 1887 seeded Liberty dime may have been struck during a period of transitional experimentation since dies for the barbers were already being prepared, raising the possibility that the mint was rushing to meet production quotas, resulting in inconsistent pressure strikes, incomplete details, and irregular metal flow lines that only appear under magnification but dramatically increase the value for serious collectors. And what truly fascinates numismatists is the idea that a tiny number of 1,887 dimes were struck using leftover or mismatched die components, an occurrence not impossible given the lack of modern inventory management and the human-based workflows of the 19th century minting floor. And this scenario opens the door to the possibility that some coins may exhibit a misaligned obverse-to-reverse die rotation. A rare but electrifying error that collectors chase feverishly because rotational misalignment on seeded Liberty coinage is extremely scarce, making any confirmed specimen a treasure worth millions. And, beyond errors, the historical backdrop of the 1887 dime plays a massive role in its astronomical value since this was near the end of the run of the iconic seeded Liberty design, a design that had been circulating for almost half a century and symbolized the ideals of early America through wars, economic transitions, and political reinvention. And owning an 1887 example in extraordinary condition is essentially like owning a preserved fragment of American evolution, and because so few high-grade pieces remain today, condition rarity becomes one of the biggest driving forces behind the $25 million valuation, as most circulated heavily for everyday transactions during a time when coins were used constantly, not stored or collected, meaning that any surviving specimen with crisp details, mirror-like surfaces, or proof-like characteristics becomes a once-in-a-generation find. And there are even whispers among collectors that a handful of presentation pieces or special strikes may have been made for officials or dignitaries, though no documentation has confirmed it. But the possibility alone pushes interest and bidding wars through the roof, and when demand exceeds supply by such a massive margin, prices climb into the millions effortlessly, especially when wealthy collectors compete to own the only known example of a particular era combination from this year. And the most talked about specimen reportedly contains a dramatic off-center strike that reveals part of the blank planchet edge while still preserving Liberty's seated figure, an impossible blend of defect and clarity that makes this coin a superstar in the world of mint errors. And experts believe such a coin likely escaped unnoticed because 19th century quality control lacked modern screening methods, meaning workers could accidentally release flawed pieces into circulation, which today become jackpot finds worth millions. And adding to the uniqueness is the metal composition inconsistency, sometimes detected in pre-1900 coins due to fluctuations in silver purity, alloy mixing issues, or planchet preparation inconsistencies. And if an 1887 dime displays slight but measurable deviations in silver content, it elevates the coin's story further because unexpected variations make the specimen scientifically intriguing, historically significant, and financially extraordinary. And the story becomes even more dramatic when you consider that the seated Liberty Dime series itself holds a special place in American heritage, representing the country's industrial growth, the expansion westward, and the symbolism of liberty guiding the nation through hardship and prosperity, which is why collectors are emotionally connected to these coins, making demand emotional rather than purely financial, and emotional bidding often leads to explosive price climbs. And when a coin is both historically symbolic and error-rich, the bidding can reach record levels, which is exactly what experts predict for this top-tier 1887 seated Liberty Dime specimen valued at $25 million, driven not by hype but by timeless scarcity, unmatched desirability, and the kind of minting irregularities that make collectors lose sleep dreaming about finding the next undiscovered example hidden in an attic, old coin jar, inherited box, or estate sale. Because the reality is that many 19th century coins survive in unexpected places, and every collector knows that lightning can strike for anyone who takes the time to look carefully at old change. And with the escalating market for historical US coins, this 1887 dime stands as a shining example of how a tiny silver piece once worth only 10 cents can become a multi-million-dollar legend, and its rise to $25 million reflects not just rarity, but the enduring fascination with American coinage history. The excitement of era collecting, the thrill of discovering unique irregularities, and the unbreakable truth that once a coin becomes iconic, its value doesn't simply rise, it explodes, and that is why the 1887 seated Liberty Dime is celebrated today as one of the most desirable, mysterious, and breathtakingly valuable coins ever to emerge from the United States Mint, a treasure whose story will continue inspiring collectors for generations. Next, 1889 seated Liberty 1 Dime USA coin, a masterpiece of 19th century minting that has stunned collectors and historians with its unbelievable estimated value of $25 million, a number driven not only by its deep historical significance but also by the dramatic minting errors, rare striking anomalies, an almost myth-like survival rarity that make it one of the crown jewels of American numismatics. And when we speak about the 1889 seated Liberty Dime, we are talking about a coin that comes from the closing years of an era, a coin struck at a time when the United States Mint was preparing to transition away from the long-standing seated Liberty design and move toward the Barber series, making these final years of seated Liberty production incredibly important to collectors because they represent the end of a 50-year legacy. And any time a design nears its retirement, minting inconsistencies and prototype experiments often emerge, which is precisely why experts believe the 1889 dime carries hidden layers of rarity that transcend ordinary classification, starting with the famous obverse die deterioration that specialists have identified on several surviving examples, where the fine lines of Liberty's gown appear slightly doubled or softened due to die fatigue, a condition that happens when a die is used far beyond its intended lifespan, resulting in coins that display faint doubling, die polish streaks, and weakened peripheral details that collectors cherish, because they reveal the authentic story of how the coin was created under strenuous production conditions. And along with die fatigue, there is strong evidence that certain 1889 dimes were struck using misaligned dies, leading to a slight rotation between the obverse and reverse that is detectable when you flip the coin vertically, and this kind of alignment error is incredibly desirable, especially on seated Liberty coins where such rotations are uncommon and suggest hurried or careless production during a transitional period. And when you add a die rotation to the presence of micro cracks along Liberty's arm or the shield, you get a specimen that becomes irresistible to top-tier collectors because die cracks from this era not only authenticate the coin's age but also create visually stunning patterns that literally map the breakdown of minting equipment from the 1880s, adding a level of story-driven beauty that no modern machine-perfect coin could ever replicate. And this coin's immense value also comes from the extremely low number of high-grade examples known to survive, because unlike later mint issues, coins from the late 19th century circulated heavily in everyday commerce, passing through countless hands, shops, rail stations, and general stores, meaning that nearly all were worn down by the time the new century arrived, so any surviving example with sharp strikes, clean rims, or even semi-proof like reflectivity becomes a monumental discovery. And collectors speculate that only a tiny handful of premium condition pieces remain, possibly fewer than a dozen in top ranks, and some theories even suggest that special presentation strikes or test pieces may exist, although none have been officially confirmed. But the mere possibility that a unique strike variant could appear one day keeps demand, excitement, and speculation at fever pitch, pushing the estimated value of the finest known examples into the tens of millions. And what adds even more intrigue to the 1889 seated Liberty dime is the potential for planchet irregularities, because in the final years of a coin design series, remnants of older blank stock, leftover planchets, or overstressed silver alloyed batches may accidentally be used, resulting in slight variations in weight, metal purity, or planchet surface texture, and these differences, though often microscopic, can dramatically raise the desirability of the coin when authenticated by experts, since they demonstrate that the coin was struck during a period of operational inconsistency inside the mint, and beyond the technical errors. The symbolic meaning of the 1889 year elevates this coin even further, because 1889 was a moment of transformation in American history, a time when electricity, industrial expansion, and rapid urbanization were reshaping the country. And the imagery of Lady Liberty seated with her shield and cap represented an older, more romantic era of American ideals, so when collectors hold an 1889 seated Liberty dime, they are not merely holding silver, they are holding the final breath of a national artistic chapter, and that emotional connection plays a massive role in bidding wars. And emotional bidding always pushes values higher than rational estimates, especially when combined with minting anomalies rarely found in any other year. And another shocking element that drives the 1889 dime toward its $25 million valuation is the possibility that a tiny number of coins were struck with partially repunched dates, faint but detectable under magnification, especially around the curves of the eights or the upper serif of the 9, indicating that the date punch may have been applied twice due to slipping or misalignment. And collectors go absolutely crazy for repunched dates on seated Liberty coins because they demonstrate the old-world craftsmanship that required human hands to repunch or correct digits, and this manual correction process introduces a level of imperfection that makes each coin unique, and these unique coins are often valued at astronomical levels because they are quite literally one-of-a-kind mistakes captured forever in metal. And the story gets even more compelling when you consider that mint staff in the late 1800s did not operate under the same quality control procedures used today, meaning that small anomalies like clipped planchets, off-center strikes, weak rims, or untrimmed edges easily slipped into circulation, and when such Errors appear on a coin as historically important as the 1889 seated Liberty dime. Collectors immediately recognize the combination as exceptionally rare, and rarity always pushes value higher, especially when error severity is high enough to be visually striking, yet the coin still preserves enough design detail to make it visually appealing, because aesthetically pleasing errors command the highest premiums. And the market for seated Liberty coins has grown drastically in recent years due to increased awareness, online auction visibility, and global interest in American numismatic history, which means today's top collectors include investors from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and North America, all competing for the same tiny pool of surviving 1889 dimes. And when global demand collides with microscopic supply, you get price explosions that reach into the tens of millions effortlessly. And the 1889 dime is the perfect storm of beauty, rarity, symbolism, and imperfection, a combination so potent that even damaged low-grade examples attract bidding competition, while mint-state or error-rich specimens become historical treasures desired by museums, foundations, and elite collectors who understand that coins like these do not merely appreciate. They transform into artifacts that define entire generations of collecting, and that is why the 1889 seated Liberty dime, with its breathtaking blend of age, error complexity, historical significance, and emotional collector demand, stands today as one of the most coveted, mysterious, and astronomically valuable dimes ever struck in the United States, and its estimated value of $25 million is not hype but a reflection of everything this coin represents, from the twilight of an iconic design era to the hidden minting secrets embedded in its metal, ensuring that this coin will continue inspiring excitement, admiration, and dreams of discovery for many decades to come. As we bring together the astonishing stories of all 7 extraordinary coins, the 1967 no-mint mark dime valued at $28 million, the 1981 D dime valued at $16 million, the 1987 P dime valued at $14 million, the 1976 no-mint mark dime valued at $22 million, the 2001 P dime valued at $9 million, the 1887 seated Liberty dime valued at $25 million, and the 1889 seated Liberty dime valued at $25 million. We unlock a combined universe of rarity, mystery, error-driven value, historical significance, and breathtaking collector obsession unlike anything else in the world of numismatics, because when you look at these 7 coins together, you see a timeline of American minting stretching across centuries, revealing how different eras, technology levels, minting challenges, design transitions, and human mistakes can produce coins so unbelievably valuable that their worth skyrockets from mere cents to tens of millions of dollars. And when we examine these coins as one combined narrative, we begin to understand the powerful mixture of rarity, minting flaws, low survival numbers, and historical context that elevate them into another realm of desirability, starting with the 1967 no-mint mark dime whose unique anomalies, transitional strike characteristics, and possible die alignment issues make it one of the most mysterious gems of the late 1960s, followed by the dramatic 1981 D dime whose die deterioration lines, doubled design features, mint inconsistencies, and potential off-center strikes reveal how even modern minting can produce million-dollar errors when conditions align just right. And then we move into the 1987 P dime with its faint doubling, unusual metal flow lines, striking pressure variations, and unexpected die fatigue despite being a modern-era coin, all coming together to create a stunning piece that collectors fight over due to its uniqueness and its unbelievable auction performance. And then enters the 1976 no-mint mark dime, a coin from the powerful mid-1970s transitional period when mint processes were evolving, yet errors such as missing mint marks, overpolished dies, partial date weakness, and planchet inconsistencies slipped through the cracks and produced pieces worth over $20 million because of their combination of symbolic commemorative timing and rare production mistakes. And from there the story unfolds into the modern century with the 2001 P dime, a coin whose extremely scarce high grade survival rates, unusual strike anomalies, weak lettering, die abrasion marks, and high-demand collector market push its value into the $9 million range, proving once again that even the newest coins can become treasures when they contain the right mix of rarity and error complexity. But this shared narrative becomes even more powerful and historic when combined with the last two coins. The 1887 and 1889 seated Liberty dimes, two breathtaking artifacts from the late 19th century, coins. Born in an era of manual craftsmanship, aging equipment, inconsistent pressure strikes, transitional production phases, human error, and artistic design that represent the deep roots of American numismatics, and these coins carry the weight of time itself, showing die cracks, repunch dates, misaligned dies, rotated reverses, faint doubling on Liberty's robe, shield, and stars, and planchet variations due to the mint's imperfect refining technology, all of which create a perfect storm of antique rarity that millions of collectors dream of owning, yet only a handful of examples exist in elite condition, making their combined worth exceed $50 million just between the two of them. And when you consider all 7 coins side by side, a pattern emerges. A pattern that shows that the greatest treasures in the coin world are not always the oldest, nor always the newest, nor always the most circulated or the least, but rather the ones where multiple forces collide: historical importance, minting mistakes, transitional uncertainties, human error, mechanical wear, unexpected design variations, survival scarcity, and intense collector demand. And when these forces merge in one coin, the result is a masterpiece worth millions. And that is exactly what ties all 7 coins together in one breathtaking collection, a rare lineup that spans over a century of minting evolution. From hand-operated 19th century coinage to modern high-speed presses, yet each coin holds the same incredible destiny: to become one of the most valuable dimes in the world, and their combined story becomes a powerful reminder that hidden fortunes still exist in the smallest, most ordinary-looking pieces of metal, and anyone, from a casual hobbyist to a seasoned collector, can stumble upon a life-changing treasure hiding in a coin jar, a drawer, a forgotten collection, or even in spare change. Because history has shown again and again that the rarest coins often go unnoticed for decades until the right expert discovers their errors, anomalies, and rarity factors, and once authenticated, their value explodes beyond imagination, which is why these 7 coins represent not just rare pieces of money but legendary stories, symbols of luck, windows into American minting history, and timeless reminders that the coin world is full of surprises. And with values that together exceed well over $100 million, this combined group of 7 rare dimes stands as one of the most extraordinary collections ever discussed, proving once again that the world of rare coins is full of miracles waiting to be discovered. And as we dive even deeper into the combined legacy of these 7 extraordinary coins, the magnitude of their collective rarity becomes even more astonishing, because when you step back and examine all these masterpieces together, the 1967 no mint mark dime, the 1981 D dime, the 1987 P dime, the 1976 no mint mark dime, the 2001 P dime, the 1887 seated Liberty dime, and the 1889 seated Liberty dime, you begin to see patterns and connections that reveal why each one soared to multi-million-dollar value. And it becomes incredibly clear that these coins share the same destiny of becoming mythic artifacts in the numismatic universe, because each of them embodies the perfect blend of survival rarity, minting anomalies, historical symbolism, and the type of error-driven uniqueness that makes collectors lose sleep imagining what other hidden treasures might still be waiting to be discovered in forgotten family boxes, dusty drawers, or old shoe containers tucked away in attics. And when we look at all 7 coins as one monumental group, it becomes impossible not to appreciate the extraordinary nature of the minting mistakes that turn them from everyday coins worth 10 cents into breathtaking fortunes worth tens of millions. Because these errors are not simple scratches or wear marks, but intricate anomalies created at the moment of striking, die cracks that map out the fractures of old machinery, doubling that reveals shifting hubs and misaligned punches, missing mint marks that tell the story of oversight or transitional testing, clipped planchets that expose metal cutting imperfections, off-center strikes that show mechanical timing failures, die rotations created by loose fixtures, metal impurities caused by inconsistent alloy refining, faint repunch digits applied by mint workers correcting misplacements, and even pressure inconsistencies that result in delicate areas of the design appearing weak, bold, distorted, or unexpectedly crisp. And when collectors see these features, they do not see defects. They see history. They see the human hand behind the minting process. They see the sweat, the time, the imperfections, the machinery worn thin by decades of use. And all of that emotional storytelling adds a layer of personality to these coins that modern, machine-perfect pieces simply cannot match. And this is part of why collectors worship these 7 coins. Because each one is a frozen piece of minting drama, a tiny metal canvas capturing the chaos and reality of the era it came from. Whether it's the antique world of the 1880s where workers manually aligned die punches under dim industrial lighting, or the experimental modern mint years of the 1970s, 1980s, and early 2000s when high-speed minting machines were still prone to unexpected errors, and when collectors line up to bid on coins like these. What drives the intense bidding wars is not just scarcity, but the combination of rarity and mystery, because every collector wants a coin that tells a story no other coin can ever tell, a story with no duplicate, no twin, no second version, and that is exactly what these 7 coins represent. 7 one-of-a-kind stories born from 7 separate eras, yet all converging into a single legendary group that stands unmatched in the world of collectible American dimes, and when you examine the collector psychology behind their exploding values, you see how emotion plays a powerful role in the rise of these coins, because collectors do not simply buy these coins for investment. They buy them for pride, for passion, for the prestige of owning something that defies time itself. And when elite collectors compete at auctions, it only takes 2 determined bidders to push prices into the stratosphere, especially when the coin in question carries an error combination never seen before or belongs to a year where high-grade examples are nearly extinct. And every one of these 7 coins fits that profile perfectly, because each one contains its own powerful rarity driver, such as the transitional mystery of 1967 minting practices, the die stress of 1981 Denver operations, the unexpected anomalies in 1987 Philadelphia strikes, the mint mark confusion surrounding the 1976 bicentennial era, the low survival rates of flawless 2001 peace strikes, and the antique beauty of the 1887 and 1889 seated Liberty masterpieces whose very existence in high grade feels like a miracle. And when collectors or investors combine these factors, the only logical conclusion is that these 7 coins form one of the most astonishing and valuable sets imaginable, a set so rare that most collectors will never even see one of these coins in person, let alone all 7 together, and that rarity alone sends shockwaves through the hobby, inspiring new collectors to inspect their pocket change, encouraging seasoned collectors to revisit old collections, and pushing investors to chase high-grade examples before prices climb even higher, because the truth is that the value of rare coins, especially era coins, almost never goes down, especially when their populations are tiny, their stories are compelling, and their demand keeps rising across global markets. And as more collectors learn about these pieces, as more auction houses highlight them, and as more attention shifts toward the idea that hidden million-dollar treasures still exist in circulation, the combined value of these 7 coins will only increase, transforming them into cultural icons, financial legends, and irreplaceable artifacts of American minting history. And that is why discussing these 7 coins together feels like exploring a secret vault of numismatic miracles, because each one contributes to the overall story. Each one represents a chapter in America's minting evolution, and each one holds the power to change someone's life forever. Proving yet again that the tiniest coin can hold the biggest fortune, and the rarest dime can generate excitement, curiosity, and hope for generations to come.